Welcome to the ACEVEDO video store. Today we're going to review The Magic Serpent from 1966, based on a Japanese folktale, the tale of the Gallant hero Jiraiya. I'm butchering the name of the title. I'm quite sorry, I don't speak Japanese. That was published from 1806 to 1807, written by Kanawete Onitake. For its 60th anniversary. I'm just butchering names here and left and right. And before somebody asks, yes, Wikizilla has said the movie came out in December of 1966, but IMDb says it came out in March of 1966 when this video is going to be uploaded. What I have to say is, why not celebrate it early? So the story is about a Japanese castle being taken over, and the main rulers of the castle are killed off, but their son, a prince, survives miraculously and gets taken away by a bird before getting attacked by a dragon. 20 years later, this young prince has finally grown up, and he's been raised by this wizard that gets killed by his former student, who is now the military command of the castle. And the prince has to go back to not only to revenge his master, but also revenge for his parents. Along with the journey, there's this girl, which I'm forgetting her name, that she goes to the same area as well to find out her lost father. Meanwhile, the castle lords, who found out that the prince is coming back, is sending out ninjas and as many manpower as it could to kill him off before he comes back. But the prince has one advantage, which is the knowing magical ninja powers. So that's the basic plot of the film. The movie's really great. I really enjoyed the film. I really loved the story. It is pretty interesting. When I was watching film, I had a kind of interesting feeling. It's like, this weirdly feels like Star Wars. Not in a one-to-one type of thing, but it's more like there's a lot of like similarities to it. I think that's mostly because of it's kind of a hero's journey formula. I kind of received some validation about it because I decided to read a little bit about it from the Monsters Are Attacking Tokyo book, which is a really fantastic book. I love it. Many interviews describing the history of the Japanese cinema in terms of the science fiction and fantasy films. Written by Stuart Galbraith. He also wrote Emperor and Wolf, the biography about Akira Kurosawa and Toshio Mifune. I've been reading this as well. He also mentioned there's similarities to Star Wars as well, which I kind of find interesting. Speaking of the story, I was looking through the credits and I noticed the writer of the film is Masaru Igami, and I started looking into his stuff, and he did the Prince of Space movies, which I've seen beforehand, and I think I thought they were like funny bad last time I saw them. I saw the English stuff, so I'll probably give it a rewatch. He did Johnny Sokko and His Flying Robots, which is based on the Giant Robo manga, which I have the 90s OVA series, so I probably have to get around to watching Johnny Sokko and His Flying Robots. He also worked on Legend of Dinosaurs and Monster Birds, which I need to get around getting the Discotheque Blu-ray because I've been hearing from people how bad it is. I was like, I gotta watch this movie. He also did, to my surprise, the Message from Space TV series, which I think I actually have a Blu-ray copy right here. The Discotheque's SDBD video releases. Yeah, this is like the sequel series to the Message from Space movie, which is Japan's Star Wars ripoff. I think there's other Star Wars ripoffs as well. So now I have to watch this now. It's like, oh, the writer of Magic Serpent also wrote a bunch of episodes for this show. I really like the characters as well, and also I really enjoy the acting. The acting really caught me off guard because how good it is. Ryutaro Otomo, who plays one of the main villains of the film, he does a really great performance in the movie. The special effects are mostly well done. Some of them haven't aged that gracefully. I noticed in some of the special effects sequences, such as the young prince is training out in the mountains, and he gets little spears thrown at him by the wizard. And they basically use this editing technique. They will film the shot of, the ground being plain and him rolling around it. And then they will film it again, but this time with the knives attached to the ground. And they will make a jump cut between both shots. So it'll look like the knives already went down there as he was making that turn. It isn't done that well. You could tell whenever there's another shot starting and the actors aren't in the same placement anymore. Similar thing happens in one of the more famous scenes of the movie where the prince is able to take off his head, and then you have this scene where he's trying to interrogate a ninja while he's headless. I think it's probably done with blue screen, but it's not really well integrated because there's those jump cuts, so as you go frame by frame, you suddenly see stuff moving around. A ninja star appears out of nowhere for one shot. But I kind of find that special effects to be kind of interesting to look at. Boomerang goes, "Yoop," head pops up, a little wire like pulls it along. It looks like a crew member is like right behind the log, just moving the head around. To go a little bit, dwelling a little bit on editing, I think like some moments have been a little improved better in terms of the editing, but the editing was generally fine. I did notice in the trailer for the Magic Serpent, it features like some footage that's not seen in the movie at all, which also includes a scene with what appears to be like a romantic subplot between the young prince and the girl that is looking for her father that seems to be completely cut out of the movie, like quite literally cut out. Like, you don't get the idea that they have any romantic interest with each other. So I wonder if that's like done by like, you know, late in the game where the filming is like, we gotta cut out some stuff before we continue filming. Oh yeah, cut out all the romance scenes, or they filmed all those scenes and they just cut it out of the movie. Back to the visual effects, the kaiju scenes where we have the giant dragon and also the giant toad, along with the spider that appears in the movie, where they're coming out and fighting each other in this miniature set. It looks great. It looks really well done. I think my only issue with those sequences is the spider doesn't really have much of articulation because it's kind of like, you know, stuck as it's like moving across the sky. You know, they couldn't just do this with it. And the dragon doesn't really have much movement to it. It seems like it's very much controlled by like puppet wires. I noticed there's a sequence in the movie where the prince gets up on a bird. It's kind of like an interesting mix of everything. So the first shot of the bird is an actual bird flying down, and then we cut to the few shots later where it looks like it's a foreground perspective thing, where in the foreground it's like a prop bird and the background is just the actors, you know, walking in and go bye bye. Then you have this wide shot of the bird flying away, and I don't know what happened, but it looks like it's done with blue screen, and the bird is like disappearing as it's flapping its wings across the sky. I was looking through the credits of the film. The special effects are credited to two people, Shigeru Atsusuka and Kunio Kunisada. I butchered those names. Atsuka has a pretty interesting like background in cinematography, doing Watari the Ninja Boy, two Peaky Violence movies, Girl Boss Gorilla, Terrifying Girls High School Delinquent Convulsion Group. I love these titles. And two films that really caught my eye: Gogol 13 Kowloon Assignment, which I have previously reviewed on this film. It's a Sonny Chiba movie. And also Legend of Dinosaurs and Monster Birds, which is considered as like one of the worst movies ever made. It's even like quite critically panned here in this book, along with many other things. I did like look at the director's filmography, Tetsuya Yamauchi. He did Ninja Scope, which is actually featured on the Blu-ray set that I watched it on. The movie is. I will talk about this later. Ninja Scope, based on the Ninja Kage manga series, which recently got a reboot last year. I haven't heard any good things about that one. He also did a Shop Arts co-production in the 70s, Nasha and the Seven Devils, which from a surface look, it kind of looks like a similar thing where it's like, you know, a semi-special effects heavy film. I also really enjoyed the soundtrack of the film, which is done by Tishoki Tishima. I wish I'm pronouncing that right. And looking at his film career, it is, oh my god, like a lot of projects, like 140 credits on like movies and TV shows. He did the two songs for this film. He did a song for the Yagu Clan Conspiracy, a 1979 show. The same song was later featured in Kill Bill Volume 1, which now I have to look up what song that was. He also did the soundtrack for Sword and the Beast, Samurai Wolf, The Green Slime, The Street Fighter's Last Revenge. I haven't watched the movie yet, so I'm now getting around to watching it. He did the animated Ultraman 2, The Adventures of Ultraman in the early 80s, Attack of the Super Monsters, which I think it's a show or movie where it mixes animation and suitmation. One of the more interesting things, he did a soundtrack, The War in Space, and one of its songs was featured in Thrice Upon a Time, the Evangelion Rebuild movie. And I was like, oh, of course Hideaki Anno would just do that. Most of the crew members, such as Tatao Kanada, the editor, Masaru Igami, the writer, the art director Seiji Yada, and Asuka Okura, the co-special effects photographer, will later work on Watari the Ninja Boy, coming out the same year, so expect that review coming out sooner or later. And I find that interesting. It's like, oh, they're all working with each other on Watari the Ninja Boy, and how most of these crew members have overlapping filmographies with each other. I'm presuming because like Toei Toei was just a machine back in the day. It was just producing movie after movie after movie. Sort of like Nikatsu, which I know a little bit more about, where they were apparently making a movie every 25 days and premiering a new one every week or so. But yeah, I really enjoyed The Magic Serpent. I wouldn't say it's a kaiju film. Let's talk about this. It's not much of a kaiju film because it's, in all honesty, the monsters, you know, the dragon and the toad and the spider, they only appear for like the first 10 minutes of the movie and the last 10 minutes of the movie. Between all that, it's really fun fight choreography and like magical ninja powers that are so awesome to look at. That it's really creative on the stuff that they really did with this film. So I'm not upset at the fact that you don't see much of the monsters because there's so much fun stuff happening in the middle of the movie. You kind of forget that there's like giant monsters happening in the film until that becomes much of a plot point towards the end of the movie. It is just a very fun film to watch. I'm glad of the fact that Shout Factory has got the rights to it, so now you can watch it quite easily with English subtitles on the internet officially. I'll add officially, because for a while this movie was not widely released on official platforms, even on home video as well. And the movie is actually on Tubi as we currently speak. The movie is very much fantasy swordplay ninja samurai films than a kaiju film. I think you could consider it as much of a kaiju film as it is, because that's like the general census, at least with like American fans, I would guess. So I'll give it 4 out of 5 stars. Like with some movies in my collection, I not own 1, but 2 copies of the film. I'm going to just get this quickly across here before I really delve into the classic Tokusatsu film set. This is the retro media release featuring The Magic Serpent and Return of the Giant Monsters, which is Gamera vs. Gauss. The Return of the Giant Monsters is the American title of the movie. Retro Media is a company started by Fred Olen Ray. He mostly did it to like self-distribute his own like movies on DVD and Blu-ray, but then started like, you know, branching out on other stuff. And you have both these movies on one disc right here. I kind of find this to be fascinating because this very much feels like a bootleg DVD release or a legally dubious DVD release, mostly because like the Gamera films, they somehow end up on those bargain bin DVD releases, and because they're mistaken to be public domain, even though that legally shouldn't happen because these movies do have like copyright dates on them. They feel quite legally dubious because you read back here, the only copyright you'll read is from 2004 Retro Media. Hey, this is 21 years old. Could you believe that? So this DVD release feels quite legally dubious, which is strange because when I was reading interview with Fred Olen Ray, I think he talks about trying to get the rights for certain stuff. He tried to release Attack of the Mushroom People, which is the US version of Toho's Matango, directed by Shiro Honda, and he couldn't get the rights for it. He also talks about this one lawsuit he had with Alpha Video, because he caught Alpha Video copying his DVDs and pouring over on their DVDs using the masters from his own DVD, which I want to like dig more into because I know Zero at Midnight interviews one of the people working at Alpha Video more recently in the last 3 years. So I was like, oh, I wonder if that's ever going to be brought up. On this DVD release, it features the American version of Magic Serpent, which is mostly uncut, surprisingly or not. Besides cutting the opening credits, changing it out to being still frames of the monsters. In the Japanese version, it's footage playing out of the prince growing up with the wizard. So I think that's the only like major thing they cut out of the US version. The US version was done by American International Pictures. By this point, they were putting out the Godzilla movies in theaters since like the early 60s, starting with Godzilla vs. The Thing. The thing I noticed is that like the opening credits and the closing credits, they look like they were designed to be in 2/35 widescreen, but they're squeezed into 4:3 for this version of the movie because it ended up airing on TV, not playing any theaters from what I know. But it definitely looks like they did plan a theatrical release. I wonder what changed. Or was it just like an oversight where it's like whoever was making the titles weren't told that it's going to be like not for theaters and could be designed for a 4:3 television? Because for the Gamera movies, when AIP put them out, they were exclusively distributed on television to the point that the opening and closing credits were in 4:3. They weren't like stretched down to 4:3. To talk a little bit about the English stuff, the US version was edited by Eli and Emil Haviv, who are siblings. It seems like looking at their filmography, they did editing on the US versions on some of the Gamera movies, and also like redid the sound mixing, including Gamera vs. Virus, The World of Hans Christian Andersen, which is a 1960s anime, Return of Daimajin, Destroy All Monsters, which was actually play theatrically in the US. And Eli has a pretty interesting filmography because he was also the editor for the US versions of Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster and Space Amoeba, also known as Yog Monster from Outer Space, and this one being known as Godzilla vs. Ghidorah in Japan. Eli also has a very interesting film that he has, Carnival Magic, doing the sound effects for that film, which is Al Adamson's like second to last or final film that he directed, which is a kids movie about a talking ape. So if there's any like bad sound effects in the US version, which I haven't seen in a few years now, I'm going to blame it on Eli here, saying like, well, that's to be expected from the guy who did Carnival Magic. The dubbing itself was done by Brett Morrison, which was done by Titan Productions, which were already known at the time, an American-based company for doing a lot of English dubs for a lot of like foreign films. And Morrison also voices multiple characters across the English dub of this film.
Yukitacho! My lord! What's happening? You are betrayed by one of your own men. What? How do you know?
Pardon, Excellency. Forgive me.
No, you saved me.
I know, but I think it would be wise of you to get out of here. Many of us remember this province when it was ruled by your family.
I didn't!
You get started. I'll follow and meet you there. Let me deal with the girl.
No! What about us?
All you'll do is obey my instructions.
He also did English dubs for Black Sunday, a Mario Bava film, which is so fantastic. Highly recommended for anybody to watch it. Return of Daimajin, Gamma vs. Virus, which was titled Destroy All Planets. I just realized this now, a few years after knowing about this fact. So AIP retitled Gamma vs. Virus as Destroy All Planets to bank off Destroy All Monsters, a movie that they were also distributing. Huh? What? What's going on here? Whose idea was this? Another thing about this DVD release, which I read on Wikizilla, but I couldn't really tell when I watched the English dub a few years ago from this DVD release, that it apparently features added sound effects in a way to retro media to like copyright this version of the movie. Like, oh, you can't steal this version of the film because we added sound effects as exclusive to our release. And watching the movie, I can't really hear those sound effects because I was expecting, something modern. But now I actually did find someone uploaded on the Internet Archive the Something Weird video DVD-R release of the Magic Serpent. So maybe if I sync them together, then I could like put on the headphones and go, yeah, that's a added sound effect. Write that down. Speaking of the dubbing of the Magic Serpent, this is the second English dub, not the first, the second English dub, because it seems like Toei got Ted Thomas, Access International Group from Hong Kong, to produce an export dub of the film that was never released. The only reason we know about this, which is weird, that the French version of the movie used the English dub as the basis, for the music and sound effects. I think the only thing that remains from it is just a few minutes of just like some audio samples from the French dub of the film that so happen to be in English and not done by the French dubbers. And nobody has found a full copy of the entirety of that export English dub. Disappointing as is, but never could say never. Moving on, the American English dub of the film, or at least the American version of the film, has never gotten really much of a grand home video release besides this retro media DVD release. Something Weird Video apparently had the rights to it. I don't know if they put it on VHS, but until recently when they stopped producing DVD-Rs, you could actually go on their website to buy a DVD-R copy of the English dub of The Magic Serpent. The Something Weird Video DVD-R release is actually the 4:3 TV version of the movie, so it's not even in widescreen, and also has a burnt-in Something Weird Video watermark, which I should mention, that means this DVD uses a different copy of the movie without that watermark. It does put in a copyright 2004 retro media watermark, so Alpha Video can't steal that movie. To mention all this, it is quite disappointing that the English dub was not featured in the classic Tokusatsu collection Blu-ray sets from Shout Factory, or Shout Studios as now they're known today. I'm already used to saying Shout Factory because, been collecting for years and it's always Shout Factory. Now I have to call it Shout Studios. Before I say anything negative about this, I would like to say The HD master looks fine, you know, it's pretty good. I had a copy of a Japanese TV airing, and it's the exact same HD master, so that means like, you know, Shout Studios didn't tamper with it or like ruin it somehow. When this came out, before it went out of print, it was $65 or somewhere around that range, and you have like 7 movies. So you're having like at least about $10 or $9 per movie, and that's pretty fine on itself for like, you know, Blu-ray quality stuff. If you open this, it has like, you know, this little slip cover. 2 movies per disc here. The Magic Serpent is on this one under an alternate title, Dragon Showdown. I'm not sure why that title. I would say like, why call Golden Bat Golden Ninja when he's obviously saying Golden Bat in the audio? And it has a bonus film, Terror Beneath the Sea, with the English dub. I'm not sure why they had to label that as a separate bonus film. It also features Sonny Chiba in that film, and yeah, I had to rewatch it again because I think I fell asleep on my first watch, and it was like 3 minutes. It's like, when is the sea monsters going to show up? So I was really excited the fact that, firstly, Shout Studios got the rights to Golden Bat and Magic Serpent, and I do recognize Princess Space Invasion of Neptune Man. I'm not familiar with the other titles here. Ninja Scope I mentioned before. So I was really excited for Golden Bat and Magic Serpent. It's like, finally, they're getting an official release. When's the Blu-ray coming out? Because it was only dedicated to the Shout Studios or the Tokushoutsu streaming service or like streaming platforms. And I was like, okay, you know, no Blu-ray release yet. Then they announced a Blu-ray release, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. With no bonus features. No bonus features. No bonus features. That's my main gripe with this home video release. There's not really much bonus features, even though there's so much to talk about with these movies. Like you could have done like the bare minimum, which is simply including like audio commentary tracks about like, you know, people discussing about these movies, because there's so much to say about, you know, Golden Bat here, you know, the first superhero character that came before Superman. So you have so much history to talk about. You could talk about the anime or this form of like Japanese art where it played through and all that. But the name's not on my mind, but if I put the text up here and all that, you know what it is. You know, there's so much to talk about. And they just say, here's the trailer, here's the movie, goodbye. Over $60 for this Blu-ray release, where it doesn't really have any bonus features. Sure, you get a good price of like 7 movies for the price of each of them being like $9 to $10 each. But like, for example, the similar price here, the Jackie Chan Volume 1 set. This has audio commentaries for every film. I forgot if Killer Meteors has one, but nearly every film, along with bonus features for a bunch of them and all that. Even if it's as small as, you know, trailers, still gallery, multiple audio tracks options, which is not featured here. So the Magic Serpent English dub, it's not included on this release, even though it would be so easy to just included it by just like, you know, editing the English dub into the Japanese version. It's basically an uncut English dub minusing the opening credits that they have to like, you know, edit in the Japanese audio from. So I was so disappointed when Shout Studios announced this Blu-ray release and there was no bonus features at all. Another thing was that Prince of Space, it's a 2-parter film, and they only include part 1 and not part 2 at all. Like, what is this release? Come on, guys. But I think this was like mostly marketed as, hey, if you actually want to own this on physical media officially, there's this option. By the way, it's a limited edition release that will only make X amount of copies of. So you gotta get it now before it goes out of print, which is, I think it is now out of print. Was it? Leave a comment of what's the next movie show I watch here. Besides Retarded and Ninja Boy, I seen Golden Bat, which I love that film. I haven't seen Invasion of Neptune Man, so I gotta get around to shooting it, along with Ninja Scope. Terror Beneath the Scene, maybe I might give it another rewatch. Double check if it was actually a pretty good movie, but I heard mixed stuff about him. One last thing I want to talk about before I end this review after that, you know, long little rant about the classic Tokusatsu collection, is the Monsters Are Attacking Tokyo book. I really enjoyed this reading this book and all that. It really gives like a great like insight to like the Japanese film industry when it comes to making these science fiction fantasy films, especially because it's quite literally directly from the horse's mouth here. For example, as you can see from these pages, each paragraph is like a new person talking about the movies. This is from 1998. This is around the time when there's like more books being written about Japanese cinema, particularly about the Godzilla films, because you have like Steve Rifle's Japan's favorite Monstar, which is a pretty awesome title, and Ed Godziwiski's The Encyclopedia of Godzilla. And then you have this book, which seems more widely published because Japan's favorite Monstar is getting a little bit rarer to find. And Ed's book, The Encyclopedia of Godzilla, was only printed on a limited run before Toho gave him a cease and desist letter and told him, hey, give us all the remaining copies. And there's only 10 left in stock before everything was sold out. And that's an incredibly rare book. But this one, I think I got it for a real good price. I think I got it for like less than $25. And it's a first edition copy. I don't think there's a second edition. A little disappointing because I wish more people could like read this book and all that who have an interest in this genre. One thing that really caught me surprised here is the reviews done by Stuart Galbraith at the end of the book. Because after the whole history section here, and like, there's also a list of biographies for most of the actors talking. For example, Ken Yutsuo, who plays the main character of the Starman movies. Funny enough, he actually rejected an offer to be interviewed for this book because he was actually quite embarrassed about those Starman movies. Which, come on, you gotta live up to it, man. The ratings are from like a 4-star rating, so it's not 5 stars as we have it today. It's like 4 stars, like the Roger Ebert way. Atomic Rulers and Attack from Space, the 2 Starman movies. Now we're already starting off here. I was quite surprised how he gives very low ratings for these movies. For example, the Bermuda Deaths gets a 1.5-star rating. Confused, illogical, and ultimately boring. And also, like, another thing about these reviews that they're listed under their English dub titles, you know, their English export titles and all that. For example, Gamma vs. Virus is called Destroy All Planets. It's given a 1.5-star rating, but the Japanese version has 2 stars. He gave Spy like a very bad review, like a 1.5-star rating as well. So now I'm actually interested in watching Spy. It's like, oh, is it that bad? Yeah, this is quite all interesting to read. It seems like, and whenever there's the American version, he seems to give a slightly lower rating compared to the Japanese version. If you're curious, he gave Magic Serpent 3 stars, so he really enjoyed that film as well. So yeah, Monsters Are Attacking Tokyo, a really great book. Overall, The Magic Serpent it's a pretty fun movie to watch. I highly recommend watching it on Tubi if you have a chance, or whatever streaming platform it is currently on, as this review lives on the internet. I wish you could get this physically on home video more easily, because now this Blu-ray says out of print, so you probably have to pay like upmark of the prices. I haven't checked on eBay yet, so maybe the prices are fair, like, you know, $60 under. If it's a little bit above, you know, $100, then I suggest just, if you just want to watch Magic Serpent, just like go watch it on the internet. If you want all these films on physical media because you're a completist, well, you could get the SEPA. Not a great set either. That's all the review. Have a nice day, and later on, come back to our video store.